with the leadership of the Bush administration, we really are. With the leadership of the Bush administration, we really are rebuilding from the worst attack that this nation has ever experienced domestically. In short, we're going to show the free world the undefeatable spirit of New York City, and we are going to bring George W. Bush back for 4 more years. You have my word on that. Thank you so much for...
Socialist, communist, NGOs, but not all. It was diverted for 2 purposes. Some were politically corrupt purposes, to support extremely left-wing, socialist, communist, and what they describe as anarchist organizations, not just in Ukraine, but in other countries. So when they want a group of international people to say that Shokin is corrupt, even though there's no evidence of Shokin is corrupt, that's how they can produce that in 2 days. They call up the people they're paying off, the people that are sharing crooked money with them, and then they get the guy in London to say it, and the guy, he's running the anti-corruption thing in London, and he says, oh yes, for some time we've been concerned that Shokin is corrupt. Oh yeah, thank you for the 2 million. This is shocking. It's a shame. So some of it gets diverted for political purposes. And then a lot of it gets diverted to enrich the already rich oligarchs and the greedy American politicians. The money our president and Congress thinks is going to the Ukrainian people is going to Soros NGOs or Soros-like NGOs and other crooked intermediaries. One of them described it this way. I said, is there anything common among the NGOs and other crooked intermediaries? One of them described it this way. I said, is there anything common among the NGOs? They said, yeah, I would describe them as they're either Soros NGOs or they're the children of Soros. And what he meant by that was there's not a single conservative, moderate, they're all left of left of left. And in Europe, when you get left of left of left, you're pretty much falling off the cliff. Sometimes Ukrainian agencies get zero, nothing. Sometimes they get some of it. And when they do, they're owned by the NGO or they're owned by the corrupt embassy staff, as NABU was, which we described to you earlier. This corruption, anti-corruption organization turned into a corrupt organization that was doing the bidding of Soros and his people.
But we begin tonight with another test of America's ability to be shocked by Donald Trump, who has very deliberately shocked America to the point where he hopes that shock has been replaced by acceptance. The president is a Russian operative. That sounds like the description of a bad Hollywood screenplay, but it is real. And it is Vladimir Putin's greatest achievement. Decades after America's victory in the Cold War and the collapse of the Soviet Union, the president of the United States is now helping the president of Russia help the president of the United States to get reelected so that the president of Russia will have 4 more years of the president of the United States who he wants in the Oval Office. This is one of those shocking news days, if you retain the capacity to be shocked in the Trump era by the Trump regime, which might be better labeled the Trump-Putin regime. And it's one of those breaking news situations that suddenly makes recent news make more sense, like the recent news that Donald Trump has outdone himself by appointing one of the most ridiculous, incompetent stooges in the Trump administration to be nothing less than the acting director of national intelligence. The president gave that job to his current ambassador to Germany, Richard Grenell, who intends to remain ambassador to Germany while being the acting director of national intelligence. And Richard Grenell will be replacing Joseph Maguire, who was serving as an acting director of national intelligence. And he expected to be nominated by the president to be confirmed by Mitch McConnell's Senate as the official director of national intelligence until Vladimir Putin showed Donald Trump that he needed an even more incompetent director of national intelligence because Vladimir Putin is working hard to re-elect his favorite president of the United States in history.
Today, we got 500,000 people sleeping out on the streets of America. Today, we have 18 million families paying 50% of their limited incomes for housing. Today, we have hundreds of thousands of bright young people who cannot afford to get a higher education. Today, we have 45 million people paying a student debt that many of them cannot afford to pay.